Hello and welcome to Books That Make the World Better. I'm your host, Jennifer Browdy. I'm a author, a teacher, an editor, and the publisher of Greenfire Press. And I'm so pleased to welcome Kathryn Girard today, who is the author of a brand new title from Greenfire Press called It Is Time: The Evolution of Earth and Humanity. So welcome, Kathryn. So glad to be in conversation with you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's really my pleasure to have this opportunity to talk about the book.
Yeah, it's really hot off the press. And I think it's it is time. I mean, it's perfectly named because it's time to talk about the issues that this book delves into quite deeply. And I know, how long have you been working on the book? How long has it been in process?
One of one of the guides in the book, Makel, this was his idea. And I'm going to use the pronoun his, even though it's not like entities in spirit identify as gendered.
Mhm.
It's just for us, it helps us. So Makel had this idea that they put forward, that they wanted to do a book.
Mhm.
And I was like, and then it was a book on the evolution of the earth and humanity and the ascension energies. And I literally, it scared me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a big
And
topic.
it was and not a topic I really know anything about, except decades ago, I went to the harmonic convergence, the idea that the earth would change and humanity would change. I get that. I had that idea loosely,
Mhm.
but a book on a subject in which I have no knowledge, I, that for me was a learning point in terms of channeling because I had to let go. And this all arose starting really toward the end of 2020 because I had retired and I was now spending more time with spirit and with my teachers. And I was getting excellent um, guidance on the fact that things were going to change for me. And this was a time for me to really open up. And then Makel was present saying, yes, we'd like to do a book.
Mhm.
And so that was in late 2020.
So that was the height of the COVID period, right?
Yes,
So things were obviously changing and under stress in the world.
yes.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they began, it's one of the things that scared me, is they began talking about things will fall apart.
Mhm.
Creation doesn't come on top of what exists. Things change, things give way so that what is really new can emerge. And so a lot of what we see that is scary and upsetting is really, from their point of view, part of the indication that change is really underway.
Mhm.
And so initially, we're in COVID, they're talking about, yes, there's going to continue to be crises, health, planetary, climate, governmental, and that, you know, that's, I don't want to be the bearer of that news
Mhm.
as the channel, except that they would always underscore that this is something we go through to get to the other side, and the other side is so much better.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the things I really appreciate about this book is it doesn't sugarcoat what is, but it manages to be reassuring at the same time.
Well, it asks us this hard thing. we can't know because we're human, we're limited in what we know.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an act of faith, in a sense, to have hope
Mm-hmm.
and to believe that, yes, humans are meant to evolve to a higher consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
to a more connected sense, both of self and with community. And that is where we're going. And so that fact that there was hope helped me a lot as a channel when I would, I give way while I'm channeling, then I read and I go, really?
Yeah.
This? But the fact that there is so much hope and love,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that they were suggesting were different and yet easy.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was the height of COVID. And from what I was receiving in the channeling, we were looking at, out into a future of things happening that were um, undermining the current ways of being in ways that might be very distressing. And I was being asked as the channel to let the messages go through because it was all for a greater good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And I listen to various channels actually, and the messages are very similar that we're getting right now. There are different sources, but the message of staying in a higher frequency, anchoring into the heart center, not getting rattled by all this external change and our own fear of change. That's a constant refrain that I'm hearing.
Yes, it is. I think that the ascended masters, the archangels, the angels, the regular guides, the helper, they are all
Mm-hmm.
of one voice. The extraplanetary beings, they are all of one voice because basically they can send energy. They can be in higher frequencies and let those higher frequencies move into the earth plane and share with humans.
Mm-hmm.
But the evolutionary progress, the movement toward higher consciousness, only comes when we, the humans, anchor those energies, really be in a state, send out love, send out gratitude, send out compassion, because those are states of beings that carry energy that move out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of, we can all think about higher frequency. That's kind of, yes, I kind of know what that means. I get help knowing what that means. But on the simplest level, every time we're taking a walk anywhere, we can be sending appreciation to the earth. We can be kind, even if there's nothing triggering the kindness. Somebody doesn't do something for me, and yet I am in some ways kind, gentle with them. That matters. You don't have to be a channel who's working to get to connection with spirit at a higher frequency in order to be doing the things that help humans, that help the earth, and that are part of this movement of evolution, of a step in the ascension ladder,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't a ladder. They would say, right, they don't have hierarchies. It's just a different state of being.
A different frequency. Yeah. 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 I mean, so you're talking about a kind of radical compassion, I think. And I was noticing as I looked over the book just now that I was just reminded that Kuan Yin opens and closes the book, the deity of compassion. And I'm curious to hear more about her role in rolling out this book.
Initially in the book, I had a section that had her messages, which were about how an individual opens to love and holds love in stressful times during change. And in the end, I removed that because I thought that there were ways in which the other teachers were talking about this, and her. So basically, she um, has her own plans for how to deliver her messages. So I'll be teaching some classes, um, because it's in sharing her energy very directly that this notion of compassion is not a response. As you're saying, radical compassion is sort of like this notion of unlimited compassion, irrespective of what it is that you're seeing. There is the compassion that we feel when there is a crash, when someone is hurt, when there is starvation, when we see a homeless person, when, and that's an evocative response from us. Our heart opens, and yet it's a different thread of compassion because the state of being of compassion, this is really hers, is it's a fuller energy, and it is just something that is in the being.
Mm.
It simply is. Even seeing something that is dark, wrong, if you're in the state of compassion, then you understand here is a being who has gone into this place, and there is compassion for what is the learning or what hasn't been learned, and for the soul in its attempt to learn through this existence. And it is not understanding it or knowing it, it's just holding it in compassion.
Mm.
In the same way that one holds love, not in response to what one's receiving or the human emotional heart. It's that state of being of love that holds everything.
Mhm. Mhm. So stepping aside from one's judgment, right, wrong, good, bad.
Step, yeah, stepping aside from one's personality.
Mm-hmm.
It is giving way
Mm-hmm.
to that fuller self. And obviously, Kuan Yin does, this is what she is. This is the essence of her energies. For us, it's like an approximation of that. It's like, can we have a moment of that? Can we step out of judgment and just expand into more gentleness, more allowing?
Yeah, this is really a challenge in these times, right? Uh,
And not just in these times. I mean, it's, I live with a spouse. Well, I encounter this challenge every day.
mm-hmm.
I understand just being loving no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my personality, my ego reacts, and, I close in. I become, kind of physically. It just shifts. And then I notice that. And then I have to really decide, let go of the reaction, let go of the emotional response, the ego response, and just step into another place of heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a challenge wherever we are.
Yeah. It is. And like yesterday I was at a protest march, and everybody's waving their signs and being confrontational at times. And that's one way of trying to make change happen. But I think you and your teachers are talking about a very different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
They would say at a protest, be there with love, not with anger, not with sadness, but with hope for a better future, with sending out the love of possibility, holding that change, pressing, wanting that change, but out of love for humanity,
Mhm.
out of love for the earth.
Mhm. And out of a positive vision of what could be.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Imagine a world where we're feeling easily connected to others, those we know and those we don't,
Mhm.
and where from the time we're born, that notion of connection is what's supported.
Yeah. Hard to imagine today. Yeah. But I'm actually teaching a class called Writing the Future, and that's what we're going to be doing, is trying to imagine a better world and how to get there in a sort of practical way. So, yeah. But
The how to get there.
the how to get there. So I think that most I've read quite widely as preparation for teaching this class, and a lot of the approaches to how to get there tend to be very like nuts and bolts, like doing things externally in the world. But I actually think that this kind of heart-centered work that you are talking about is at least as important as any of these, like policies or even community changes that we could try to become more resilient. All of that, all of those grow out of this deeper spiritual connection that you're talking about, and can't really happen in any long-term way without the spiritual anchoring, I think.
Because ultimately, everything comes back to each individual. And so, if an individual is wounded in how they see themselves, if they don't see themselves as whole, if they don't love all of themselves, if they don't trust kind of the heart and they trust mind, which good to be smart, helpful in this world. I like being smart out in the world. It's not the best place for me to think from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That opening to kind of a more open consciousness, intuition, heart,
Mm-hmm.
but all of those are stronger the more the individual is healed within themselves. It's kind of like if you have had um, your heart hurt, wounded, if you never have felt you had a sufficiency of love, if love has been fragile, then how do you go out into the world to make change without having those fears of hurt, without having fears of loss, without having that part of you that has not been full, not affect what you can think and what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a sense, the place that I have learned to think about as the starting place is really each of us coming to love ourselves fully. What we would think from ego as not so good stuff, and the stuff we like, and the stuff we're attached to, and the stuff we want to forget, and the part of our body we like, and the parts we don't, all of that. for an individual to be able to hold the whole self in an embrace of their love is the best starting place from imagining what could be. But we get there only when there are enough individuals, enough humans who are holding this larger capacity and this more whole sense of self is the starting place.
So this sounds like an enormous therapy project.
Well, the
Like,
good thing is that, a lot happens energetically.
yeah. So
But
tell us about that. Because, it sounds to me like an amount of self-work that I can't even fathom. Like it's overwhelming to think about that.
it is a lot of self-work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what you learn on the spiritual path is, oh, it's really nice to go up and connect with spirit, but often they direct me back down into a fear I'm holding, into what it is I'm resisting, into something else that needs to be released. And sometimes that release happens because I just somewhat with some resistance go, okay, I'm going to go into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I go into it and it opens to me and I sob and then I release. And what's interesting is the release can happen in a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And when that release happens, then all the story that attached to that part that was hurt, fearful, um, it releases. And it's as if it releases back through history. Mikkel would say this. When we heal, whether it's physically or emotionally, mentally, we heal an idea that's been holding us back. It moves because there isn't time from their perspective. So it moves back through our history and forward into the future. And so energetically, there's a lot of support for letting go. But sometimes we get attached to the stories.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We think it's the story that's who we are,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always the learning from the story we're telling and the releasing of that learning, integration of it.
Yeah. So I think this is something of what I'm onto with my practice of purposeful memoir, that we have to go look back, but it's a future oriented looking back. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about that you focus on memoir writing, and I thought for so many who have not felt valuable or valued in their lives, who have not felt fully seen or understood,
Mm-hmm.
memoir writing is a way to claim who I am
Mm-hmm.
and then to be able to let go of all of that and be present to the I that is.
Yeah. And the I that is has to do with the larger soul that inhabits our individual bodies.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's quite a bit in the book about all is one, there's no separation. And I think it's an interesting, maybe, I don't know, a little bit of tension between we need to anchor spirit within ourselves and our individual consciousness, and we are all one, you know.
That all, we are all one is like such a lovely phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from where we are on this planet and in our lives for the most part, not something that we can feel.
Mm.
It's a lovely idea, but what, and sometimes my teachers give me an experience of what it is to feel a little bit more of that. But really, for us, you're exactly right that it is being in connection with the soul that is a part of every aspect of our being. It's in every cell, it's throughout our field. And just as the earth provides all this nourishment and life force energies and creation energies that are a part of us also, the soul is present, and it's our soul energies that embed stuff in us and that have relationships with those who are now present to help us, whether in spirit or in body.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, all is one. I get the big idea, but even the teachers, for them, they are not merged with the one. They have a capacity to experience a vast sense of connection and flow,
Mm-hmm.
but they are still focused. And in that focus, there is both within the connection, there is a kind of narrowing is not the right word. This is the problem.
Words.
I'm trying to interpret what I'm seeing and understanding, and trying to do it in our words and concepts is really hard.
Yeah. Yes. And they say that a few times in the book. It's just like, it's just hard. Um, and I do know a few languages, and so I'm interested in this question of translation. And there maybe that in a different language, the ideas could be expressed differently.
You know, in the world of spirit, in the realms of spirit, because there are many different realms, dimensions, frequencies, it's so much simpler
Mm.
because they're not communicating with each other in language. They are communicating in energies. And so basically, there's an energetic connection to a knowing. And that's how things move
Mm.
in this flow of reception and understanding, resonance.
Yeah.
And we're stuck with words.
Yeah.
No matter what language it is, it's still words and denotations and connotations and nuances
Right.
connected with the world as we know it wherever we are, and with the social structures that have built the language and the understanding.
Right. But we also have emotional intelligence and intuition, which I think are, don't need words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even though most of us with intuition then try to frame what it is we now understand.
Yeah.
And Makel is frequently telling me to let go of the words. Do not try and put the experience into words.
Mm.
Just try and allow the experience, and don't try to name it, frame it, use words to express it. And
And then, so, I mean, Mikkel in my understanding, was really the driving force of this book, and really wants to communicate these messages. right? And obviously knows that we need language for that. And yet I'm also hearing you say that Michael is suggesting that we don't need words to make change in that way. We can just allow ourselves to be the change, to use that slogan.
I think there are two things there. One, when Makel is trying to teach me and expand my experiences, then they give me an energetic experience. Um, and then they don't want me to try and describe it or put names to it. And so that for me is like a learning edge at the moment because I'm very word oriented. It's been helpful in my life. But in terms of the messages for change, it is about the energy that each of us puts out every day. And that I think in that case, it's more setting an intention and naming the intention, and then allowing the integration of that intention. So if my intention is, and the simplest example is that I walk a lagoon path most every day to the ocean. And sometimes on the path, people have left their dogs' leavings without picking them up.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me mad. How can they be so thoughtless? And so, but my intention is to put out an energy of love and compassion and gratitude to the earth and gratitude, compassion for humanity. And so each time that happens, I have to pause and I have to go, I don't know why this happened, but I tried to figure out how do I take this and turn it into my sending out not anger but love. And it's a challenge. And Makel will say, then go pick up the poop, grab one of the bags, carry it with you, pick it up, and send your love to the earth that you are helping to make the path a beautiful place for everyone who follows behind. And, it's if in every single moment we could just hold an intention of kindness, gentleness, love, compassion, however in the moment it can be expressed, that's a help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of making change. If everybody walked around being kind and gentle with anyone they encountered, the world would change.
Yes, it would. And I can just hear people saying, "Oh, what a dreamer." Look at those two dreamers. Yes. Yeah. But I think a lot of the famous sages from history had a similar message, right? It's all about love.
It is.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel that way on this earth.
at this time,
I think that it never felt that way on this earth
I guess.
because love in a human being is so complicated. Feeling known, feeling seen, feeling understood, understanding oneself. Those are all hard here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we come to know ourselves when the way from the time we are infants, others are telling us how we are, how we should be, what we are, what we will be, what we're feeling, what we're not going to, don't feel, walk this way, don't walk that way. And so with all the layers, I mean, we come in used to connection
Mhm.
and we come into separation and we fight our way back to connection in the self and with others.
If we're lucky.
So if we're lucky, so it's a hard planet. I mean, the peacekeepers, the extraplanetary group, in saying that they understand the process of ascension and evolution and change because they have all gone through these evolutionary changes, these ascension changes in their different species systems. But none of them had to start in a dense third dimensional place.
Hmm.
They all started in worlds where energy was the focus, where they might have bodies, but the energy in the body was lighter, the frequencies were lighter. Doesn't mean they didn't have troubles evolving and changing, but they didn't start from this kind of form with all this density.
Hmm. Yeah, that actually the voices of the extraplanetary beings or extraterrestrials, I don't know. They were very interesting to me because they just seem so unusual and different. I don't know how many channels of those kinds of voices there are. I don't encounter that many.
Well, there are channels of the extraplanetary beings, often groups, but like Laura, who channels the Andreas and the Light Collective messages in the book, has a guide who comes not from the earth. I
Yeah.
mean, all the beings are not on the earth, but I mean, it's an extraplanetary being. And so the energy is different, their voice is different, and their purpose is a little different. They're
Mhm.
here to help. They're here to bring their higher frequency energies to the earth. But they are aided in that when actually their energies come through a channel, a human channel, because it grounds their energies and makes it, more digestible, more easily absorbed
Mhm.
in this layer of the earth. And their concern is also that human consciousness, if it doesn't raise up, if it doesn't move to that higher level, then it's not just this planet and this species that is at risk. Because as we keep pushing technology and as things escalate in terms of separation and anger, um,
Hmm.
the consciousness with which we do things um, is, or the lack of the limited consciousness, the limited focus, the focus on profits when it comes to space and exploring and technology is not safe for anybody. And so, from their perspective, they're concerned, and not in the sense that we're going to go and blow up a planet, but more in the sense that as we, if we're not evolving to a higher consciousness, we become more and more vulnerable to other darker energies. And this I didn't like. I'm like, the idea that there are beings who are not operating at a higher, lighter consciousness and frequency, but at a darker, lower frequency, who, for who, where the earth could be vulnerable to those energies having influence. The book, I don't think in the book, I don't remember if that gets touched on, but it's something that definitely the peacekeepers mentioned.
Hmm.
And so their interest is broad. Really have and they're like, the earth is not this singular thing. It connects to other species. It's part of the whole. And in the notion of all is one, well, that there are just ever greater and greater wholes of actual things that exist. And so their focus is on those larger planetary galactic energies.
Mhm. Sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, right? Or out of the Bible and Satan and um, uh, Rudolf Steiner talked a lot about dark dark beings, dark energies, but um so the antidote to that is to embody love and to
Yes.
yes, and that is so much of what these guides are trying to suggest and I think to give us a little help, a little push, a little embrace in that direction. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
And it is, as we were saying earlier, it's, in the past, when people opened to channels, to the entities, there were a lot of helpers. And, the two beings who helped me a lot, who were channeled by someone who lived near me way back when, decades and decades ago, were named Daniel and Beth.
Hmm.
And and when they, couldn't answer a question or they couldn't help me directly, sometimes they say, well, just a minute, and we'll go find that. We'll go see. And they would go consult elsewhere, and they'd come back with something that was very helpful. And they would say, this is not something we know. And they at one point explained, they said, think of us as we're all here in apartment buildings. And some of us live on the fourth floor, and some of us live in the penthouse.
Mhm.
And what you can see from every floor, what you can see around you, what you can know, who your neighbors are, it's different. And so I would say, using their analogy from long ago, it used to be that when channels opened, or began to open, they would open first, at least, to helpers who were located on lower floors. But now there is so much focus from all the higher level beings that I think that, more and more people are opening to channel, and an archangel is there.
Mhm.
Mary is there. Kuan Yin is there, the ascended masters, the archangels, all the higher vibration beings are very focused on the earth and humanity because it is time. And this evolution, this opportunity for moving to a higher consciousness, this is the time, and it needs all of us who can to be the midwives to that change. And so they are present and all with this focus.
Hmm. So, I mean, not all of us can channel, right?
Right.
But all of us can make a connection. Is that so?
Yes. And all of us can love. All of us can want to open our heart. All of us can believe that we hold a light inside of us
Mhm.
and that all we want to do is expand that light, whatever that means. I don't have to know what that means. I don't have to know what that light is, but to believe that there is something in me that is loving, lighter, more open, that I can choose to want to expand. A long time ago, I used to use the chant, expand the light, expand. I couldn't, if you'd asked me what was the light, I know. But I did know it felt right to want to expand the light in me.
Mhm.
So sometimes I think we don't have to know, we just have to yearn.
Yeah. And try to stay open to what comes in response to that yearning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm mindful that this book was really a team effort, you know, and if your teachers would like to say anything now as sort of an uh, inauguration moment for this book, it would be wonderful to hear from them. Um,
Well, then give me a moment
mhm.
and I'll go ask.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Miss Jennifer, we greet you and we are Kuan Yin. We are stepping in because though we are not the main voice of the book, in what you have been talking about just now, so much of the focus has been on love. And so we are here wanting to say that nothing that the humans must do, could do, to bring about what is in every heart. Every heart yearns for connection. Every heart yearns for fullness. Every heart yearns for that openness and space. The heart wants to breathe in its great fullness, for the heart energy of love is not capable of being wounded. Connecting with love, that frequency of love, that is a connection to the unlimited reservoir of unlimited, unconditional love. Who does not want to be loved unconditionally? And so the underlying message for all is that the capacity to love unconditionally lives within you. And you have this ability. It is not something to think about loving perfectly. It is about yearning to open, knowing that this opening to an ever greater love is something that is your birthright. It is something you come into this being with. It is not something to acquire. You do not have to work to acquire a fullness of love, to have that as an active part of your being. You have this. It is a part of you. You are already whole. But in coming into this life, it is made difficult for you to see that and to know that. We want you to believe that you are whole and you are everything you need to be. You are what is needed in this world. Let go of worries. Let go of expectations just for a moment. And as you breathe, allow yourself to soften and to know that you, with each breath, can expand into love. Allow yourself to know this is not about another person. It is just you, and your power is your love. In the book, all the teachers speak to this power of love and what it can bring forth. And so we say again, it is not a power you need to acquire. It is just a power that is in you, because nothing in the world, nothing in the universes has the same power as love. So, Miss Jennifer, we do not know that we have answered what you wanted us to come forth for. Do you have a question you want to ask us before we let go?
Well, when you were speaking about love, I was thinking about creativity. And I think there is a link between what you're calling love and what we humans call the creative power. And I'd love it if you could speak a little bit about that.
Let us just pause for one moment. Well, there are many here who can speak to that, but we will, from our perspective, the creation impulse, that divine creation energy, of course, has at its core this frequency of love. And so it is right in saying that there is this connection, because they are not ideas, they are energies. And there can be things created. There can be creation that loses the connection to the frequency of love, and it ceases to be that creation energy. So there is not just one creation frequency or energy. There are many. This is, if you think about flow and waves and pulses, there can be very thin threads. There can be very full, fat, big threads. And so that connection, that entwining, pure creation energies are inseparable. We could say that inseparable frequencies with love. It is divine love, divine creation energies. There is merging, integration, oneness there. But then there are weakening separations, small threads, and so it is not always joined. It is not always well joined, entwined. And so we would say that divine creation energies are beautifully entwined with divine love. That is the pure form. But when creation energies are flowing through a being, just as when love throws through the being, it has so many layers to move through, yes? Heart, mind, body, ideas, past emotions, physical realities. So to call upon divine love is to ask to be filled with that radiance. To call upon divine creation energies is to be filled with that radiance as much as the being can allow. When one is in one's own being creating, then there can be this inspiration that pulls forth from love and more divine, more, I do not like this word pure. It's just a different vibration. So now we are at the point where words become very, very difficult. Very difficult. And this is where being able to provide energetic experiences is helpful in terms of allowing the energetic reality, at least an approximation, a sense of the energetic reality can be experienced. But always, when you are calling forth creation energies and moving that through the heart, then that is the higher form, the frequencies that are more connected. We think we cannot do better than that.
No, I think that's what artists have always called being in the flow. You know, when the muse comes through you and you're not thinking, you're just allowing. That's how great art is made by humans, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
We would, of course, say that great art does not necessarily get seen. Because that is a different world. When one moves from the creation expression into your world, then other factors affect. And yes, there is so much beauty that has been created. But our interest is in that individual who finds that moment of inspiration, expression, and manifests it. And that reality moves through the individual and to the soul and outwards, even if no one else sees it, because the energy unleashed in that act of creation that came from inspiration and the heart becomes part of the atmosphere, part of the etheric atmosphere, the emotional atmosphere that exists and moves in its own waves.
Mm-hmm. That's very helpful to hear in a time when influencing is so, taken as so important. We can all be influencers in our own sphere, I think.
Yes, and of course, we would say when you are in your own home, not connecting, not expressing, but having your own energies of appreciation of something, recognition of something and its contributions, those thoughts, those feelings, that state of appreciation and recognition moves out, and it is more important than communicating from our perspective, not from your perspective of bringing people to see something or purchase something, or it is its own thing. So for those who are not influencers, everyone needs to understand what they put out in their ideas, in their feelings, in their expressions is part of what is present in the world, because it is energy that goes out from the individual. That is why it matters if you pick up the piece of paper in annoyance, or you pick up the piece of paper to increase the beauty of the earth. It matters what goes with any action. And that is what actually is most important, not what you are doing or creating, but what you are sending out in energy. Everything becomes part of the weight or the lightness of the world. Everything.
Mm.
I do not mean that you are guilty of doing bad things for the earth if you have moments of anger, annoyance. It is not what we need to be saying. Even though it would seem that we rather said that.
Well, no, just the energy of our thoughts makes a difference, and our feelings and our emotions. Yeah.
Yes, and you know this.
I do. I do. That's why I am trying to make books that make the world better and, lift vibrations by thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because then even the desire of the writer, that hope of the writer, is part of what gets carried in the book, is it not?
Yeah.
And every time there is hope, it is like a little flame that someone else can catch and light their own hope with.
Yeah.
That is a very powerful. You have that image, yes, in circles where candles go one from the other until all are lighted. It is with hope. And books like memoirs, which bring forward moving through difficulty into hope, into love, into acceptance, allowing those all, as they go out into the world, reach others and light those flames of hope, of possibility, of yearning, of seeing. So, yes, we think it is very powerful what you do and enable others to do.
Thank you.
So, we think we should let go for now. So, we have enjoyed your invitation to be present and we are aware that we are not always succinct as we try to respond to questions from this plane. So
Mm.
we send our blessings,
Thank
and
you.
we have enjoyed this time with you.
Mm. How does that leave you feeling?
Oh, well, feeling her, that's always, my mind comes in and goes, well, did she go on too long? Did we get things I, as a channel, am separate from the channel who is, who worries about, well, how did that go?
Mm-hmm.
And is that really true? And was that right? And did you actually answer the question? It's kind of like, um,
Is there are you're not having that inner conversation while you're channeling, are you?
No, no, if that starts to happen,
You lose.
then they stop me.
Mhm.
And there'll be something like they'll go, Miss Kathryn needs to remove herself, or we're going to pause for a moment here, and then they don't yell at me, but they tell me to get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was beautiful. It was a beautiful meditation on love and creativity and the power of thoughts to influence the whole. Yeah, it was very beautiful. I'm sure I'm going to be watching it again, listening to it again. Yeah. So, so I guess I just have one more question for you, which is about community, because there's a lot in the book about how important it is to practice what they're offering in community. And I'm wondering what plans, if any, you have for bringing people into community around these ideas.
Well, I'm planning to do a program in, I think, March and April, one each month, and maybe there'll be more. The teachers definitely want to get the message out, and they definitely want to work in groups. And so I think that um, Melchizedek, who is one of my teachers, um, who works with me mainly in what I'm going to teach or what they're going to teach, because that's what shifted. Used to be worked with me on what I was going to be teaching.
Uh-huh.
And now it's that they are going to be teaching and they're going to tell me what they're going to be teaching. So I don't exactly know, but I know the form is for there to be a talk by one of the guides, and then a question answer time, and then a meditation. And so I assume, and this is all arising following the book, so I imagine this is part of that.
Hmm.
And, you know, in the Andreas material, there's a lot of focus about the importance of doing the work in a group. The peacekeepers on Makel talk about the importance of joining with others, simply because it's easier. You know, it's kind of that energy when you bring together a circle. You know, you do this. Yes, you bring people together in a circle, and the energy then kind of expands. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the exponential increase of energetic exchange and expansion. And so I think that's part of it. And part of it is even if it's not in a group, in helping people understand that there is a community of others with like beliefs
Mhm.
and like purposes. So even, you know, at the dentist's office last week, I simply, what's new with you? Well, I just had a book come out, and then I've now given up trying, just forget who I used to be in my life right now. This is who I am. So I said, well, it's, you know, it is time, the evolution of Earth and humanity. And they were like, the dentist and her assistant were like, oh, wow, that's so exciting. And then we talked about it. And of course, they, you know, they're a dentist and a dental assistant, and they're spiritual. They're
Mm.
not religious. And so the idea, so I had the best time ever at the dentist office because we talked about spirit, we talked about ascension, we talked about the changes, about how to understand all the dark things that seem to be happening. They were so excited. They went off to look up the book. They,
How about that?
yes. And so for me, that was yet another reminder that I just have to talk about it. I just have to be willing to say, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And lots of times people go, well, that's interesting, and move on. But it's letting people who otherwise don't have spiritual community,
Mm-hmm.
aren't religious, aren't going to go to church, aren't in a meditation group,
Mm-hmm.
to know that there are others. It reinforces for them. And so, in a small way, it's not joining together, and yet it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm now joined with them. I am joined with the lovely woman who washes my hair at the hairdresser because she also yearns for spiritual connection, and I'm the connection point.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a community in the sense that I think Andreas and the Light Collective are seeing ultimately, which is literally individuals gathered together. But it is in my city here of Los Angeles, where geography, there's so much separation, literally, physically. It's a way of helping me and others feel connected
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
this spiritual journey and path.
Mm-hmm. And to know we're not alone. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. And there actually the virtual format really does work for
it
circle
does.
too. Yeah.
It absolutely does. I find that certainly in my classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some I have found in your classes that the power of the teachers really comes through. I mean, it's it was surprising to me how powerfully it came through, even through the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not in this form. And for the archangels, ascended masters, for them to be in multiple places at the same time for their energy,
Mm-hmm.
literally their energy can flow to each person in the circle at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't need our screens
No,
and wires. No.
no, but it helps because then if everyone is feeling that energy and it's moving through all of our human body, that escalates the flow.
Mm-hmm. It amplifies. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how we can be part of the evolution of Earth and humanity, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we started in kind of a darker place of talking about, the troubles of this moment, and we've gotten ourselves through this wonderful place of connection and community, and that is what this book is really all about. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you for this opportunity to talk about it with you in a kind of very free-ranging way.
yeah,
Um,
I have the feeling we could talk for hours, but it's good to know that you'll be sharing in different formats, and your website is right up there on the screen, Spirit Woven, and I was really interested to notice Kuan Yin talking about weaving and threads, and you know, obviously that's part of your vocabulary for her. Yeah,
it is.
yeah. So someday I'd like to know more about your actual physical weaving too. But
Well, that'll be a future conversation.
yeah. So, all right. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work you've done on the book. It is a beautiful gift, and I hope
Well,
you make good use of it.
I may that be what happens, that good use is made, but thank you for making it possible.
Midwifing.
This,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I would recommend you as a midwife anytime.
Oh, thank you.